Welcome to the 64 Squares studio, where chess history comes to life, one classical battle at the time. Hello everyone, hope you're having a wonderful day and welcome back to another Decoding the R.J.Fischer game. And this time we are back to USA Junior Championship. It's game number 3, 1955 of course. Robert James Fischer is 12-year-old, he is 1850 rated and his opponent is T.Jimmy. Someone whom I have no information on, but we will see. I mean, he performed pretty well in this tournament. T.Jimmy is white and Fischer is black, so let's see. Thompson started with d4 and we have the King's Indian defense with knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bg7, e4, d6, knight f3, so the standard King's Indian castles. And already a somewhat of a rare line, bishop to d3. Now bishop to e2 is the most popular line, bishop to e3 and bishop to g5 being close seconds, and also the h3, my personal favorite. But okay, bishop to d3 has been played before, and Frank James Marshall has tried this one, but he was not successful with this line. But bishop to g4, and in my personal opinion, a best way to exploit this particular setup, because the bishop is not on a2, so this is a pin, and this pawn is right now a very good target for black pieces. So, well, white castles, and this is a novelty already. Before this game, as I said, Frank James Marshall has played h3 and drew his game. Because he is a Frank James Marshall, that's why he drew that game. But he was worse for the entire game. But okay, castle by Jimmy, and it was in this position that we have a completely new game. Though we will follow it a little bit longer because the theory continues with knight c6. With the idea of knight into d4, because, well, that pawn is just undefended. This knight is just pinned as highlighted. And bishop to e3 to defend that pawn. And okay, if you want to punish white, then you definitely play e5 in this position. Idea being, if now white play d5, then after knight takes knight d4, threatening knight f3 to win, well, not win anything, but to mess up the pawn structure. And after bishop to a2, at the very least, you will just take the bishop. And after queen takes, and let's say knight h5, and let's say one more move h3, bishop d7, you will see that black has a very solid bishop pair. This knight is heading to f4 to claim the second bishop. This pawn is coming to f5 to gain a, well, very direct attack. And white has nothing to show for it, yeah? Black has all the trumps in the position and black is already better. So that's how you punish this bishop d3 line. Sorry about that. But after bishop to e3, Fischer played knight to d7 with a different idea. He just want to this bishop to have an open diagonal, and also, well, it's directly attacking the pawn right now, right? But now bishop to e2 is a very good move, which was played by T.Jimmy. Okay, bishop to e2, a nice move. And now again e5 is possible, but Fischer played bishop takes f3. Bishop takes f3. Nothing wrong with Fischer's play. It is also fine, completely fine. I mean, it's a way of playing. e5. And now there is too much pressure on that d pawn. So you have to either take on e5 or you play pawn to d5. d5 played in the game. And okay, I mean, I think Fischer considered T.Jimmy as a lower rated or rather weaker player than him. That's why he played knight to e7 for a direct attack, which paid off. But in general, knight to d4 is of course the move you want to play in this position, right? Well, white's best idea in this position is bishop to g4. Just defend your bishop pair. And after f5, just take and play bishop to h3. And now f4 being a very strong move next coming up. And white is actually quite better. Though knight d4 is still absolutely best, and after bishop g4 you can play like knight c5 and a5 also. f5 is just very tempting, that's why I put the f5 on. Anyways, so after d5, as I said, Fischer played knight to e7. But there is something critically wrong with this move. I mean, not with the idea itself, but the Well, what the Fischer had in mind is completely wrong, because after bishop to e2, which is a good move by white, f5, if white just played f3, and let's continue with some King's Indian idea, let's say f4 and bishop f2. Without this light square bishop, how are you ever going to exploit this g4 break? I mean, you cannot, right? This bishop, this queen, and this pawn is very nicely defending that g4 square. And unless you play g4, you cannot open the king side that easily. And without that bishop, there is a weakness on all the squares. My c5 is probably in my next move. And I mean, b4 c5 is also like incoming. You cannot stop it. So that's the idea. Without that light square bishop, black's kingside attack is critically, well, I would say, just not working anymore. And well, if you ask Engine, it is already winning for white. But in human play, you still have to work for your meal. But okay. After f5, maybe Jimmy Thompson just thought that without that bishop, it is still quite possible to attack, and he played pawn to f4. Maybe because in general, if you have a bishop pair, you rather want the position to be open, right? You want your bishops to have open diagonals, open space, open center, and with knight, you want the position to be closed and have some maneuvering squares. So maybe that's why he played f4. But that's a very weak move. It gives away all the advantage that white has in this position. But only if you find the right continuation, which Fischer missed. Fischer played h6, a very weak move, of course. The idea is unclear, even though there is some ideas which I will show later. But there is a way to exploit this f4 directly, which is, well, you just take f takes e4. And idea is, once white takes, then you play knight to f5, and well, where will you go with this bishop? If you go to f2, you just lose this pawn, and if you go bishop d2, then I will just take the pawn, and after takes, then the b2 pawn hangs. With the idea that you cannot claim this pawn because bishop d4 is a defended check, and that's it. I am just up a pawn as black, so that is better for me. But Fischer may be afraid of opening the position and misplacing his dark bishop, played h6. Okay, now white has the opportunity to exchange everything in the center, but white made a critical error with bishop to d3. And it is like asking for trouble now. I mean, there is too much pressure in the center with all the pawns attacking all the pawns. And both of them are not reacting like what is happening in the center. And white wants black to capture, black wants white to capture, yeah. But okay, and Fischer again misses f takes e5. Oh, sorry, plays king to h7, and this I think is intuitively very wrong. Putting your king right in the front of the bishop's eye, which will open up soon, is something you don't want to do, right? But Fischer did it. In this position, well, you can also take on f4 and play g5. That's another idea of h6. With the idea of, let's say, bishop d2 and f4, this knight's getting on e5, and this dark bishop gives black pretty nice pieces, and well, grip on the dark squares. So this bishop is useless for now, unless you get this bishop to, let's say, g4. Then it becomes pretty powerful. Sorry about all the weird arrows. Somehow it happens quite often. Anyways, king s7. Okay, now Fischer, well, Jimmy played queen to e2. I think it is a good move because it just prepares rook a to d1 and rook a to e1. Now Fischer decided to take on e4, knight takes e4, and knight to f5. Good move, just attacking the bishop, and you have to defend this bishop. If you just give away the bishop and then open up this diagonal for this light King's Indian bishop, that would be a dream position for any King's Indian player. So bishop to d2, e takes f4, bishop takes f4, and the position has opened up, and knight to e5, attacking the bishop, and this is critical. Now you have to play rook a to e1 and complete your development For example, black will play queen to d7 or even queen to h4 with the idea of rook a to e1 and rook a to e8. And I mean, the position is objectively, I would say, I mean, engine says it is dead equal. But it depends which one you like better. Black king is safe, but white has a bishop pair. And whenever you give away your e5 knight for the bishop, I am pretty happy because that is a monster knight there, right? So after knight to e5, that's what you have to play, rook a to e1. Just give away the bishop pair and just admit the equality. But T.Jimmy made an critical error again, and this one is a decisive one. Played bishop to c2. And well, there is something very wrong with this move. So pause the video and try to find a very simple refutation to this simple idea. I mean, it's very simple. Just give it a couple of seconds. Okay, I think everyone sees it. Knight to d4 is a simple fork. It's no, I mean, it's not just a fork. Actually, the thing is, you cannot move away your queen to anywhere. You have to defend your bishop. So in the game, queen to d2 was played. Queen to d1 is the best move. And if you play queen to f2, then we will come back to it because similar thing happened. After queen to d2, the thing is, yes, you are attacking the knight. And if you take, then I just take back. That is actually quite fine for white. But there is a bishop, so you are not really attacking the knight. And after knight takes e4, I am attacking your queen. This knight is defended. And, well, you just lost a very important pawn there. And that's not it. Actually, these knights are very, very nicely placed on the dark squares. And this bishop being under attack makes it even worse. And this was played in the game. And one last error played in the game, queen to f2. But at that point, the position was lost anyways. And for the last time, pause the video and try to find the winning continuation for black while I give you a couple of seconds. Okay, I hope you find a simple rook takes f4. And Fischer played it. And well, in the game, Jimmy didn't resign. He played queen takes f4. Knight e2 check, winning the queen. But he did play king h1, and after knight f4, it was in this position at move number 23 that Robert James Fischer won as Jimmy Thompson resigned. And it's the very first victory of Robert James Fischer in this particular US Championship in 1955. So yeah, very ambitious game because I mean, first of all, this knight to e7 retreat, I think every one of us would have gone to knight d4. Why you wouldn't go to the center? But I think that's what you have to do sometimes when you are playing someone who you know that you are better than them. You just have to make some decisions where your opponent have to think more, right? Anyways, that's the game, and that's the very first victory that Bobby Fischer scored in this series. So yeah, let's see how Bobby Fischer progress from here on, and yeah, I will see you on the next video then. Bye.